learning so
Really
much.
squeezing all the tips out today.
Yeah.
Yes. I love this and welcome. Okay, looks like we are open. We are live. The door has opened for this webinar. So we are very excited. And how is this just already the third session of day one? So crazy. It's gone so fast. And I am really excited. I know Bonnie is too. We're so excited to have you today, Sandy. And I'll formally introduce you and let you take it away here in just a few minutes. But a couple of things I want to mention. If this is your first time joining us today, we are excited to have you here. And maybe you've been already around here for the past couple sessions. So all these sessions are working together really well. I think that's so cool. We're learning so much stuff. And again, like this webinar alone, you're going to get even more out of it. Just all these actionable items. Really, really great stuff. But just again to show you, let me go here to this slide here, is if you have missed any of the sessions earlier today, here's what we've been doing today. So the first session we had with Rita earlier today, she really talked about, building that roadmap to your first sale or your next sale and really getting down to the nitty gritty on what are your goals and how do you get there. So that roadmap, it was really, really insightful. And then the session that we had just right before this was with Kim from the Travel Institute. And she went over so many great things of, how to build the best relationship you can with your travel partners and just how much that helps, your business and gives the best for your clients as well. And now I'm really excited for our last session of the day to have Sandy with us. We love working with you, Sandy. It's so exciting. And we're really going to be talking about how to close that deal. So this is the perfect way to end this day, I think, is really talking about all those really great ideas on how to book more clients. Wait, did I put this slide how to get more clients? Okay, I had a thing in the way. I was like, did I mess that up? So yes, so it's going to be really great. I'm again really excited for this session. And again, all of these are being recorded, but then we will not be done after today because we still have a whole nother day left. So today's job was really more industry driven and talking about your business, educating on that. But tomorrow we're really going to get into Travefy software and talk about, okay, now how do you apply your business and put your business, streamline it through Travefy? So we're going to talk about, how to stand out with impressing your clients with itineraries and proposals. I've been saying this every time, but for real, our users tell us they sell more when they use Travefy's quotes and proposals. So we will cover all that because that's going to be a big one. And then also, I'm going to also talk about how you can use Travefy's CRM tools to streamline, organize your business. And then the last session will be Bonnie sharing how to build, your online presence and your website through Travefy. So it's going to be a really good time. So a whole nother day of really great stuff. But again, don't worry, all of this is being recorded. And you actually, if you go back onto the page you would have registered on, this is where you'll find all the recordings. So actually, if I refresh, you can see now it says I can watch the recording. So shortly after each of these air, you'll be able to go back and watch those recordings. And then next week, we'll get them on our YouTube page. So they'll live forever. So if you ever need to come back, you'll be able to, which is great because I know that happens. It's a lot to take in now and then come back later and check it out again. So really awesome stuff. And be sure tomorrow that you do register for each session that you want to join. So that way we can send you reminders and you can get into all those sessions tomorrow. So it's going to be good time, but we're not done yet because now for the final session of today, I'm really excited to introduce you to Sandy Saburn, who's Chief Strategic Alliance Officer, which is like the coolest title ever from the Gifted Travel Network. And we're so excited to have you here today. I know we're going to learn a lot.
Thank you, Stephanie. I always love doing sessions with Travefy. I think the amount of love and education you guys put out for the industry is so wonderful. And in addition to the amazing product that you have, which we give to all of our advisors, so everybody gets Travefy and has since the beginning. So we're excited to always partner with you, and I'm excited to be here today because this is one of my favorite topics because look, we all get into travel because we love it, but it'd be nice to make some money, right? So,
Yeah,
and
right?
this is one of the reasons why people don't, is what we're going to talk about and how to fix it.
I like that. That's probably the most important topic we can have. So I'm excited.
Yeah, exactly. So let me share my screen and we will get started here. And there we go. So can you see that okay, Stephanie,
Yep,
Bonnie? Yep.
you're
Are we
all
good?
good.
Perfect. All right, wonderful. So let me sort of jumped ahead there. I don't know how I did that. But so today what we're going to talk about is closing the deal, how to get more clients to book with you. So it's a little bit sales, it's a little bit marketing, it's a little bit customer service, it's a little bit everything. So if you have questions, we're going to have some time for questions at the end, and I welcome those questions about anything I'm going to talk about today. But before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about me so you know, like, where is this information coming from? So I've been in the travel industry for more than 20 years. At 20 years, I just stopped counting and just started saying more than 20 years because I don't want to be too old. And I just realized I have on the same earrings I have in that picture. Isn't that funny? And I do own clothes that are not black and white, honestly. But I absolutely love this industry. I started out as a travel advisor, always wanted to work in travel, probably because I grew up in a family that never went anywhere and I wanted to go everywhere. So got into travel, have been an advisor, been in marketing, been in training, been in all kinds of um, roles within the travel industry. I've worked in brick and mortar. I've worked with host agencies, just lots of different things. And so all of the info that I'm going to be sharing with you today is really a combination or culmination of all of the things that I've learned from working with some amazing advisors over the years. Advisors who are luxury focused, advisors who are family focused, advisors who are focused on everything you can possibly imagine as far as the type of travel and the type of client that they work with. But there are some universal truths that apply to all of those. So I'm hoping that each of you will find some nuggets to take away with you, whether you are a week in, a month in, a year in, 5 years in, wherever you are in the process. I hope you'll find some things today that will be beneficial for you. Because what I want to answer today is essentially this question. Why is it that clients book with some advisors and not with other advisors? And to sort of further that, why is it that some people jump in and have so much business and have so much from the get-go, and other people seem to struggle to find clients? And we're not going to get into marketing so much today, but I will say that obviously some of that does depend on your network and the places that you're involved with. And if you're getting into travel, wouldn't it be nice if all your friends and your family and the people in your communities were all very well traveled, booked really big trips, and just wanted to do everything through you? But not everybody is blessed with that kind of network. But what we're going to talk about today applies whether you are working with people that you know or people that are just cold calling you out of the blue because they found you somewhere or somebody told you about them and they're interested in having you work with them on travel. So one of the things that I always think about when I talk about this topic is a survey that CLIA, which is Cruise Lines International Association, did a few years ago. And I'll try not to use a lot of acronyms today, and if I do, I'll try to explain what they are, because I know that this is a very acronym heavy industry and sometimes your mind can just go swimming with all that alphabet soup. So if I use something that you don't recognize, please feel free to put it in the chat and I'll make sure to respond to that. So CLIA did a survey of cruise clients or cruisers, consumers who booked with travel advisors. And specifically, one of the things they looked at as part of this big survey was, why is it that some consumers booked with travel advisor A this trip, and then they booked another cruise later with travel advisor B? Why didn't they go back to travel advisor A? And sort of the general consensus was Travel Advisor A didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't do anything extraordinary. And extraordinary does not mean rebating your commission. It does not mean buying them expensive gifts. It just meant that they made the booking and that was it. So we're going to talk today about how to be memorable, extraordinary, how to make the difference so that people not only come back to you time and again, but also refer their friends and family to you, because referrals are one of the best ways to build your business, because if you're working with people that you like and they refer people to you, you probably are going to enjoy working with them as well. So it's all about making the client feel special, but in order to make the client feel special, you have to get to know the client, which is something we're going to talk about today as well. But I want to also just sort of set one, not a boundary, but just sort of definition of what we're not going to talk about today. There are two ways to sell travel. One is volume. You are just booking as much as possible, just getting in there, book it, book it, book it. This is what the Expedias, the Travelocities, all of those OTAs, online travel agency, that's what OTA is, OTAs do out there in the world. You cannot compete with them on volume. And please hear me when I say that. If you want to be a successful travel advisor, the way to be successful is not on volume. I promise you, you will wear yourself out. You will be miserable. You will work with clients who are incredibly difficult, and it's just not the right path to success. The right path to success is consultative. And you'll notice that I've used the term travel advisor rather than travel agent. That was one of the reasons that term came about, was to differentiate people who are just booking and focusing on volume versus people who are consultants, experts. It's not about booking. Anybody can pick up their phone and book anything, anytime. It's about crafting a vacation that is the best value for that client and their budget. And in order to do that, you have to get to know the client. So that's really what we want to focus on as part of this process, is the consultative skills that you need to sell travel effectively. So again, please don't go the volume route. I know that it's tempting, and there's a lot of advisors out there who want to jump in and be the cheapest, the fastest, rebating commission, charging no fees. That is just a way to burn yourself out. But if you want to be a very successful, happy, profitable travel advisor, you need to go the consultative route. That's what we're going to get into now. So here are my 4 keys for consultative selling, and we're going to go deep into each of these. The first is establishing rapport, which is incredibly important. The second, listen and learn, demonstrate your expertise, and then asking for the sale. And that fourth thing, believe me, I am not a hardcore salesperson. I don't like to be sold to, and that's not what this is about. This is more about just continuing the conversation in a way that you take the next step. So let's dig in. Let's talk about establishing rapport. So first of all, the number one mistake people make when they're working with clients is that they jump right into quoting. So let's imagine that I am a client and I reach out to a travel advisor and I say, hey, travel advisor that I've never worked with, I am interested in doing a cruise, and I particularly am interested in going up to like Norway and Finland and all that, and seeing the fjords and all that. And I found this one cruise online, and it's XYZ Cruise Line, and here's the date, and it looked really interesting, and wanted to see if you can help me with that. The response that a lot of travel advisors make, that I encourage you not to go in this route, is that they jump right into, they wrote that date down, they wrote that cruise line down, they wrote the itinerary down, and they say, yeah, let me get some information for you and I'll get back to you. They get off the call, off the email, off whatever, and they jump right over into whatever system they use for getting cruise pricing. And when they go in and they start getting that cruise pricing, then they are getting the pricing and and sending it back to the client. They've not done anything to build a rapport with the client, to get to know the client. Now, if this is somebody they've booked 55 vacations with, maybe they don't need to have this conversation. But you really have to take a step back and build some know, like, and trust. Know, like, and trust is what determines who people do business with. Think about places that you love doing business with, whether it's a place you go and buy clothes, or if it's a hobby, maybe it's a place you go and get your supplies for your hobby. Maybe it is something that you, I don't know, it could be shoes. It could be a whole host of things. Maybe it's house things. Whatever it is, think about stores that you really like to do business with. There's something about that place that resonates with you. You know it, you like it, you trust it. You trust what they do, you trust who they are, you trust what they sell, and that's what you're trying to build with the client, because it's not about just simply giving out a price, getting something booked. We all can do that on our phone. It's or computer or tablet or any other way. What it's about is really getting to know that client. So taking a step back rather than jumping right into this, I would first want to know a few things. Okay, how did this client reach out to you, this prospective client reach out to you? If they sent you an email or a Facebook message, maybe it's somebody you went to high school with and you hadn't seen in years, and they send you this quick message. A lot of times we go into reactive mode. Oh, I got to give them information quickly. That's not the way to do this. You want to make Zoom or some other platform like Zoom your best friend. When we're having a conversation, a two-way conversation, that's how you can establish rapport with people. That's how you can get to know them. It's really hard, if not impossible. It's not impossible, but it's nearly impossible to establish rapport on a short-term relationship via email, via text messages, via instant messages on some sort of social media platform. So you really want to have a process in place and think through this, and have some sort of platform where you can either be in person, you at least are talking on the phone, or I know in some of you that's like really old school stuff, but I swear to you it really does work, or you just are on Zoom. And one of the great things about the pandemic is it forced the entire world to use Zoom. So even if you're talking to a 70-year-old person, they probably know how to use Zoom, and it's not going to be a big problem. And so what you want to do is think about your process and say to the client, rather than, oh, well, let me get you some pricing on this Nordic cruise that you're interested in. Say, oh, I love Nordic, I love cruising, I love Norway, I love whatever. I'd love to talk to you about this. I've got some questions. Can we set up a time to talk on Zoom? And I'll send you a link. And so you're setting up something where you can get on the phone with them, get on Zoom with them, and have some sort of a conversation. Because the next thing that you need to do is listen and learn, because there's a lot that you are going to want to ask open-ended questions about. It's not that you're asking questions to doubt them. And I say that because the first question that I would have for this client is, tell me what it is that intrigues you about this cruise. What is it that excites you about this cruise? Because for cruises specifically, the number one reason that people don't like cruising is there's a mismatch between the cruise that they booked and that they took and their travel style. So imagine that you've got somebody who travels a lot and they only stay in Four Seasons resorts. And they say, God, everybody's talking about cruising. Maybe I should try that. So they book a 4-night Carnival cruise. Nothing against Carnival. Carnival's an amazing cruise line, but Carnival and Four Seasons are very, very different products. And the client doesn't know enough about cruising to know That's a mismatch. And if they reached out to you, ask you about that, and then you booked it, you're not doing them yourself or them any favors. So asking some of these open-ended questions, but like, tell me about that. Or if they say, maybe they don't have an idea what they want to do. They just say, you know what, we've got two kids, ages 8 and 12, and we want to do something for vacation next year. And they, this is what we're thinking about, but we're just not sure what our options are. Some of the first things that you need to know are more about the kids. What are the kids like doing? Are these like really um, very athletic, active children? Are these children who really geek out on history? Yes, I promise you such a thing does exist. Are they kids who are just average kids? And what about the parents? What is it that they want to do? So asking questions like, well, there are definitely lots of options out there for families, and the options are growing all the time, which is amazing. To help me give you some better recommendations, tell me about the best family vacation that you've ever taken. What was that like? What made it so amazing? And then listen to them. And this is where I really like Zoom. It's one thing to be on the phone and you're listening and maybe you're doing something else at the same time. It's another thing when you're on Zoom and you're looking at them and you see when their face lights up and you see when they just are visibly excited about something. So you're not just listening with your ears, you're listening with your eyes and paying attention to what it is that gets them excited. And asking things like, what's the best vacation you've ever taken? What did you love about it? And if they say, "Oh, we stayed at such and such hotel or resort and it was amazing." What did you love about it? Don't just stop with the adjectives of it was beautiful, it was incredible, it was amazing. What about it? Was it the service? Was you just need to dig and know more. And again, you're not peppering them with questions. And I honestly don't feel like, I know there's a lot of people out there who are big believers in surveys, and I love surveys too, but and a sort of an intake form. If it were me, and I were the potential client, I probably wouldn't do such a good job of filling out that intake form because to me it just feels like work. It feels like when you go to the doctor's office and they're like, fill out this form of every condition you, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your cousins, and anybody you've ever met, including the dog, have ever had in their entire lives. So I'd rather have a conversation because also you then get to see when they light up, when they say, "Ooh, I love that. Ooh, I just think it was just so fantastic. It was so amazing to be there and see the history," or "I love the culture. I was somewhere and I got to meet locals and know more about what they, what they do on a daily basis on that tiny little island and how long they've been there." Those are the kinds of things that really make a difference because the very best travel advisors are ones that you hear described this way. I've heard several people say, my travel advisor knows me and knows what I will like better than I know myself. And when you reach that level of expertise of getting to know your clients, you are going to have a client for life. You're going to get tons of referrals and tons of recommendations from them. And so that really speaks volumes about how you get to know people. Now, you probably have noticed by now that all this takes time. So that's why I say this is not a burn and churn business. This is not a get in, get the quotes, send them out, process, process, process. It's a getting to know people and getting to know what they like, which is why I think that you're going to find it's hard to have these kinds of conversations and have these kinds of engagement opportunities with people who are just looking for the cheapest price. They don't care about anything else. And it's harder to do it with people who are really doing very entry level, very low price point You'll probably, if you're dealing with somebody who has a really small budget or very, very price sensitive, you'll probably need to shorten your conversation, because otherwise you'll end up, making $2 an hour on the whole thing. So you're trying to establish rapport, you're trying to listen to them, and so that's why you're going to need to have some sort of a system in place of setting up appointments, getting on Zoom or some other. Google has a platform where you can talk to people and where you can see them. Then once you've taken all of this information away, then that's when it is that you really get to demonstrate your expertise. You can also demonstrate your expertise throughout the conversation. So if they say, oh, our very best vacation was when we went to Amsterdam, and we were there during the tulip season. And if you had been in Amsterdam during the tulip season or any other time, you can make comments like, oh, I love Amsterdam. It's such a cool city. And I've never been when the tulips in bloom, but I've been at the Christmas markets. I've been in the summertime. It's really such a nice place. So you're sort of dropping in little hints that you have either worked with or know of what they're talking about. It's just a conversation. Just think about, like, if you were at a cocktail party or you were at a barbecue or something, and somebody comes up and you both have been to the same place and you both enjoyed it, the kind of conversation you'd have, that's really what you want with people, so that you're demonstrating your expertise, but not in a showy, obnoxious way. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to hear somebody just come out with a holier than thou attitude about something. Um, so another part of asking or demonstrating the expertise is two parts. One, at this point, it's going to be about questions. It's going to be about the kinds of things that you're asking, helps them understand that you know how all this works, and and even if you've never been to this place before, and I am a firm believer that you do not need to go somewhere or experience a destination or a product in order to sell it. So please don't keep telling yourself that myth. That is not true. You do not have to experience every cruise line, every ship, every hotel chain, every destination in order to effectively work with it with your clients. Now, being part of a bigger community certainly helps, because you can tap into other expertise. And for many of you, your host agency will serve that. Or if you're part of ASTA, maybe you have a great group of people in your ASTA chapter in your area, and you can sort of drop these little comments in if it's appropriate when you're talking to people. Like maybe if they say, we've always wanted to stay at a Four Seasons, and you can say, well, we're part of the Four Seasons Elite program, and when you say we, you mean the host agency you're affiliated with. Part of that expertise is showing the network that you can tap into. So saying we're part of that Hotel Elite program and we have a great relationship with Four Seasons across the globe, that is another way to help you demonstrate expertise. And I'm going to talk again in just a minute about another way how you use Travefy to demonstrate your expertise. But for now, we're going to stop there and go to the next thing, which is asking for the sale. And when I say asking for the sale, I'm not actually talking about, at this point, asking the client to book with you, because there's a step in the middle that needs to happen first. So after you've had this great conversation with the person and you have learned more about what they're looking for, and assuming, and I'm making an assumption here that this is the kind of client that you would want to work with, and that you can do the kind of trip that they're looking for. Sometimes there is a mismatch, but 90% of the time, 95% of the time, there is a match and you want to work with them. Then at that point, you need to have what I call the "here's how I work" conversation, because I strongly encourage each and every one of you to charge professional fees from the get-go in your business, because every other professional in the world does. Accountants do, attorneys do, and every other kind of professional. If you hire an interior designer to redo your house, they're going to charge you a professional fee. They may also be getting commission from where the furniture comes from, but they're charging you a professional fee. And one of the other blessings of the pandemic was a lot of travel advisors who were pushing back on that idea of, I'm never going to charge fees, I always work for free. They learn that when things happen and the booking gets canceled, you've done all this work for nothing. The other thing is, when you say, I work for free, free has no value. And anything that is free is generally considered of little value. And that fee also needs, and I know this isn't a presentation about fees, but that fee needs to be significant enough to demonstrate your expertise. So here's an example. Recently, I was talking to one of our advisors at Gifted Travel Network, who is working with luxury clients, probably has an average sale size, I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to guess about $12,000 per transaction. And so not ultra luxury, but decent. And her fee is $50. $50 feels more like a penalty than a professional fee. If her fee was $500, she probably would get more clients than at $50. Because if you are a luxury client and you're going to spend 15, 20, 50, $100,000 on a trip, and the person tells you my professional fee is $50, you are probably going to think to yourself, I'm not sure that this person really knows what they're doing if that's all they charge. $50 is just too little. So I encourage you to really think about that and make sure that your fees are sort of not sort of, are in line with the type of clients that you want to work with. So when you have this, here's how I work conversation, what you're saying to people is, this has been fabulous. You've given me a lot of great information. I'm super excited to work on this proposal. So let me tell you a little bit about how this works and what our next steps are. So I will take all of the information that you've given me and I will put together a comprehensive proposal that we will go over and see what you think about, see if you, and we can make any tweaks that you want to make on it. But I think I've gotten a really good handle on what your goals are for this vacation. You've shared your budget. I'm excited to work. I think that budget is 100% in line with what it needs to be for this particular type of trip. So I'm gonna work on that. And the next step is I'm going to send you a document that outlines our agreement for working together and has a link to pay my professional fee. My fee is $7.95 for this trip, and so you will get that information. You can review it. You'll sign off on it electronically, and there's a link there that you'll just put in your credit card to pay the $795 fee. And then as soon as that's done, I will get started working on your proposal. Usually it takes me 3 or 4 days for me to get that together, or whatever your time frame is, 3 or 4 days. And then we'll set up another call because I really want to go over this with you, so that we can both see it at the same time. So we'll do it in a Zoom format. So how does that sound to you? And stop talking. Because a lot of times people just keep talking and talking and talking, and the person never gets to say, oh, I didn't realize there'd be a fee, or that sounds fun, or, and you can ask, what email address do you want me to send this to? And I would bet you that 95% of the time, if you've done a good job with having this conversation and getting to know the people, you will find that they will say, that sounds great. And once in a while, you'll have somebody ghost you. You'll send them in the information, and then they don't fill it out. They don't pay the fee. If they don't fill it out and they don't pay the fee, don't work on the proposal. You can reach out to them again and say, hey, I just wanted to make sure you got this, so I'm sending it again. And if you don't hear from them again, I would reach out to them in a different way because things end up in spam, things end up in different folders. Text them or call them and say, I just want to make sure you got that. And then if they don't respond, let it go and move on. They're not the right client for you. And there are so many more out there. At Gifted Travel Network, we're part of Virtuoso, and we hear from Virtuoso all the time that there are far more people looking for virtuoso or sorry, looking for luxury travel advisors and premium travel advisors than there are travel advisors to fill that need. So there are plenty of fish in the pond, so to speak. So don't beat yourself up over one person who's not responding to you. So really the sale is getting them to pay your fee because you shouldn't work on commission alone. Once they pay that fee, then you start working on the proposal. They're probably going to make a couple of suggestions. You'll make a few changes and they will book it. So there's not really a need to ask for the sale at that point. What you're just really saying is, are you ready to book? And then there's a whole other conversation that Travefy is well equipped to handle about how to deliver that proposal, because I really feel like you need to give them a Travefy itinerary as a proposal. And I know there's different ways to do that in Travefy, and I am not the right person to speak to that level of technical capability, but Bonnie and Stephanie are, and they will have experts tomorrow to talk about those kinds of things. But when they see it in writing and with images in person and day by day, it gets them excited and they're ready to sign up. So um, asking for the sale is really about getting them to buy you and to buy into working with you. And you need to put that out there and feel good about how you present it. And it doesn't matter if you've never sold a thing in travel in your entire life. If you are working through and studying this and learning this industry, you can absolutely do this and you can absolutely go through this process and work with clients. And just quickly remember that relationship building doesn't stop when the trip is booked or traveled. And this is where people often fall down and end up booking with a different advisor. My husband and I booked a 19-day Mediterranean cruise years ago, and this was before I got in the travel industry, so it was more than 20 years ago. The travel advisor that we worked with took our deposit, took our final payment, never heard from them again. Never followed up to say, how was the trip? Did you enjoy it? Never sent us any information about this is what you should expect. Here's some packing lists, any of that kind of communication. Nothing. So when we needed to book another trip later on, do you think we called that travel advisor back? We did not. We found somebody else. So it's important to keep that relationship open. And when the Travefy's presentation tomorrow talks about CRM, that's what you need is a CRM to help you manage all of that. So make sure that you keep that relationship going and have some sort of ongoing communication. I and Gifted Travel Network are big believers in a weekly newsletter. We call it an e-zine or an email newsletter, so that it's not salesy, it's informational, and you're just sharing information, spotlighting destinations, and that sort of thing. Okay, I've talked enough. I'm going to answer some questions, but I also want to say I'm doing in the LinkedIn newsletter that starts in September. So if you're interested, follow me on LinkedIn or send me a connection request. I'll be happy to connect with you. And I will, after Labor Day, that newsletter will start going out, and it's going to have sales, marketing, business development, operations, tech, all kinds of things in there. So that's that. And I'm going to leave that screen up just so people have that.
Yeah.
But I know that there are questions in the chat, and I did not do a good job of keeping up with that. So Stephanie or Bonnie, you want to kind of walk through those and we'll talk about questions.
Yeah, all kinds. That was great. So good. And a lot of very similar questions too. So one of them, this was earlier when you were
Mhm.
talking about like doing the Zoom. So So here's the thing, and I'm sure many people are worried because I know some people are like, I'm scared. I don't really want to get on a Zoom or a call. So how do you handle that? Like, if you are feeling like people are like, can we just text? Can you just text me, or can you? How do you deal with that?
That's a great question. And listen, you are the expert and you have got to take control of this relationship. And so I think you have to put some boundaries around this and say, this is how I work. And if you have somebody who's like, no, I'm not getting on Zoom, I just am going to text you everything I want. Do you really want that person as a client? Because they will be texting you at all kinds of day, night, weekend, whatever. So I would, if people push back on that, then I would say, look, I get it. Sometimes you don't want to be on Zoom. You don't have to have your camera on if that would make you more comfortable. Or if they push back even more, you can say, it's okay. We'll just send me your phone number and we'll chat on the phone. And if they won't even do that, then I would not work with them. Bottom line, because this is a relationship you're trying to build for the long term. Remember, we're not doing volume, just cook it and book it sales. So if you can't talk to them on the phone even, then they're probably not going to give you their credit card number and they're probably not going to book with you. They probably just want to pump you for information so they can go do it themselves.
Well, and one thing that I see with a lot of advisors, what they do is like on their website, it'll say, here's my process. So it's not shocking. It's
Mhm.
like, I'm trying to build this relationship with you so I can understand what you need. So I think that's helpful too, that you're putting that out there that this is how I work. And I think that just looks really good. Like, your stuff.
Yeah, I agree completely.
hmm
It makes you the expert and puts you in control of the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And another question here is, so we were talking about like the intake form. You don't want to ask too much stuff because you want to be able to ask that in person or over the phone or on Zoom. But what about what information do you need to start collecting? Because I was actually wondering this myself, is how do you know budgeting, or do you believe in asking for the budget, or how do you deal with that?
I do, because here's the thing. Um, the people people will say, I don't really have a budget, and sometimes they don't because they don't have a frame of reference. For instance, if I were going to plan a trip for my extended family to go to Antarctica, I really don't have a frame of reference for that. So I would need my professional travel advisor to say to me, look, based on the way that you're talking about this, it's going to be somewhere in this area. And you have just want to make sure that that's going to be comfortable for you. But I think the other thing too is going to be saying to somebody, you know, can you give me an idea of what your budget range is? My goal is to find you the very best value. And I'm not asking you for a budget so that if you tell me $10,000 that I'm going to spend 9,998, if I can get the trip that you want for 6,000, then that's what we're going to go with. But I need some sort of frame of reference. And if they say, well, I really don't have a frame of reference, then you can probably maybe give them some guidelines. Or if they say, I don't have a budget, it doesn't really matter what it costs, then sometimes I'll push a little further and say, well, are you thinking less than $10,000? Are you thinking 20 to 50? Some sort of thing like that.
I think yeah, that's awesome. And I like how you phrase that too. I'm looking for the best value for what
Yes.
you're looking for. So I think those keywords, those are really good. So I
Yeah,
like
because
that.
that's really why you work with an expert is to get the most value for your vacation dollar.
Absolutely. And this question I just saw it, I looked right at it, is from Cynthia's, do you ever turn a client down because their budget is too low and you can't meet their needs? Like how do you do that? How do you deal with
Yes,
that?
so I encourage you to do that. If the client's budget is too low, um, not so much that it's too low for you and what you're doing. Sometimes if you're like, we have travel advisors that just do luxury clients. So they have to have a $25,000 minimum trip. And if somebody wants to go to an all inclusive for 3 nights and it's going to be $2,000, they just don't do those kinds of bookings. And that's fine if that's your business model. But I think if you're working with a client and you come back and say the trip cost is $10,000 and they say, I really need to keep it under five, I would say, there's no way I'm going to be able to come up with that, because sometimes people just do have unrealistic expectations for what things cost.
Well, and I know we saw that a lot after the pandemic with
Hmm.
the demand of travel just spiking back. People are like, "But could get I could book this, like maybe 15 years ago at this rate," but that's just not what it is anymore.
No, and there's a lot of people, if they really haven't traveled since the pandemic, are going to be shocked at hotel rates. I mean, I think we just got a report from somebody, and our average daily rate for this particular hotel chain was over $1,200 a night. That for people who are used to spending $150 a night, $1,200 is a lot of money, which brings me to one of the other most important things I can say to anybody getting into this industry. You personally may not be able to spend $1,200 a night on a hotel room. You may, even if you had lots and lots of money, you may say, I would never spend $1,200 a night on a hotel room. Please do not spend out of your own pocket for travel. There are people who will gladly spend $5,000 a night for a hotel room if it's what they want. That's amazing. I personally can't see myself ever doing that, but I would be happy to help someone else do it. And so just don't, we say that all the time, don't spend from your own pocketbook when you're working with clients. Just because you never would doesn't mean that they won't. And so sometimes we say, "Oh, no, that's way too expensive." Not 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 necessarily. Depends on the
Yeah.
client.
Yeah, which I think that was in another webinar that we did one time that was mentioned. I was like, that's so true. It is because
Mhm.
we're in this, our mind is thinking way differently than, so
Well, I
that's
mean, think
important.
about think about cars. A car is four wheels in an enclosed space for you to get from point A to point B. And yet we have everything from the cheapest little Ford Escort, or what, I don't even know what the cheapest thing. I used to say Yugo, but they haven't made those in forever. But, a little bitty car to Lamborghinis and everything in between. And there's people who will pay mo that kind of money. So it's not about what you want or what you would do. It's about what the client wants and what the client is interested in.
Yeah, such a good reminder there. So another question here for you is, how do you? So this is on like quotes and proposals. Is
Hmm.
how do you follow up a second time after sending a quote and not hearing back following your initial follow up?
Well, and this is one of the reasons why it's good to charge professional fees, because if you've done all that work and then you never hear from people, after you do that 10 or 12 times in a row, it really, really gets frustrating. So I would and definitely encourage people um, to make sure, first of all, to talk to the client during that consultation and say, let's talk about your expectations of how soon you want to get this book. Because for some people, I'm in a hurry means it is 4:48 Eastern time now. I'm going to need this proposal by 7 p.m. And for some, it's like next week is fine. So you don't want to make an assumption, so you need to ask. So if you say, it'll be 3 or 4 days before I can get this to you, but I'll have it to you by next Tuesday. Will that work for you? Yes, that's great. Then let's go ahead and set up a time to go over this on Tuesday. And so you're not having to follow up with them because you're on the phone with them and you're going over that proposal with them in person. And then you can say, what do you think? And then you're going to need to send them a form and a credit card authorization if they're ready to book. If for some reason you're not able to do that call, then you're more likely to be in a position where they just ghost you, but at least you've collected your fee. And I know I've seen a couple of questions, if you want to go ahead and address this, I've seen a couple of questions pop up about flat fees. Is it
Mhm.
a percentage or a flat fee or whatever? Everybody does it a little bit differently, but here's the key. The fee needs to be sufficient to indicate that you're professional, and it needs to be simple enough to feel good to the client and not feel like you're nickeling and diming people. And that's why I think a flat fee is the easier way to go, whether it's $95, $495. There are lots of other models like annual retainers and all that. But if you're, for most people, having a flat fee per trip, unless you're talking about 16 couples, then that can be different. But if you have a flat fee, that's usually the best way. And you may have a flat fee that, and I really encourage people not to put their fee structure on their website, because it might be that you're talking to the client and you're like, I can really tell that this person is going to be hard to get to a position of, or to make a decision. So my $495 fee just became a $695 fee to help cover that. And I don't mean that as a joke. I seriously would do that. And then for group fees, oh, and James, that's an excellent question. I want to answer that next. For groups, you probably are going to need a different fee structure, and it could be that if it's over a certain size, you do it per person. Just depends on the makeup of the group. But the question that James posted that I just happened to see pop up was, do you keep that fee or do you apply it towards a trip? You never apply it towards the trip. That's not what a professional fee is. Do you ever go and get your taxes done and the accountant says, well, I charge a $500 fee, but $250 of that um, goes towards your tax return? No, they just charge you the fee for doing the work. And that's the position that you want to be in. Now, there are seller travel rules that you need to be aware of. And really, according to ASTA, California and Florida are the two that you have to be concerned about. And in California and Florida, you have to have a full seller of travel license in order to charge a professional fee. For many people, what that means is they run the professional fee through their host agency because they will have a full seller of travel. So at Gifted Travel Network, if we have a client that the advisor or the client is in California, say, then the advisor, even though they might be in Montana, will run that particular fee through us. We charge 3.5% to cover the credit card processing fee, and that's it. And then we just pay them that immediately. But for every other state in the union, you just keep that money and do it through your own account rather than through us, the host agency.
That's really interesting. And I actually dropped in a video because we did a video, this was last year, and there's some examples of some Gifted Travel Network advisors in there, but we I think there was like 5 different fee structures that
Mm-hmm.
advisors shared with us. And so we share that in the video. It's really
Perfect.
cool. Yeah, and telling you like when to introduce the fee from
Mm-hmm.
it's all real life situations. So yeah, highly
Yeah.
recommend checking that out in there. Um,
Good.
yeah, it's super good because, the fees are a big thing. And I think the fees answer so many more of the questions that were coming in, like being ghosted or how do I get this? I mean, really, the answer is the fee would take care of all of that for you.
Well, and remember too that there's two reasons people ghost you. Number one is um, they're not serious about booking. And I can give you the perfect example of this. When my very first job in the travel industry was at a travel agency in the mall. So we would have people who would sit there, come and sit in front of us while they're waiting on their spouse to finish their shopping. And then let's just talk about travel. Well, what would it cost to do this? Well, what would it cost to do that? These people had zero intention of booking. And I'm not saying that that's the case with everybody who ghosts you. Sometimes it's like the reality of having to pay for it is just not going to work with their budget. The second reason people ghost you is they did not build, you didn't establish that rapport, you did not connect with them. And I promise you, if you go through this process of establishing rapport, connecting with them, charging a professional fee, going over the itinerary with them, the number of people who ghost you will be reduced to almost zero.
So true.
Yeah,
Um, well, it looks like I just looked at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're already getting. But I did have another question for you that I wanted to
sure.
ask. So Amy asked, and I really like this question: is what is your number one tip in selling luxury travel? Because that's a hot one. Selling luxury travel or groups. Like what would be your number one tip when it comes to luxury travel?
So I would say and I'm going to answer this question for luxury travel, not
Hmm.
ultra luxury travel, because that is a whole different animal. But for luxury travel, and I would include premium in this, the number one tip I would have is just that you need to remember that clients who are booking premium and luxury travel, what they're looking for is service. They're looking for somebody who's going to help them through the process. Not that they're not capable of getting on and doing it themselves, but they want an expert. And ironically, the group of people that are most likely to say, I want to book with a travel advisor because I want somebody who is an expert, are millennials. And so millennials are far more likely to book with a travel advisor than their parents or grandparents, and they backwards influence their parents and grandparents to book with travel advisors. So they're looking for somebody to give them expertise before they book the trip. They're looking for somebody who's going to answer their questions during the process of, oh gosh, hey, suddenly we just happen to think, do we need to make dining reservations when we go to these different places? I mean, we're going to Paris. Should we go ahead and set up dining reservations or not, or just do it on the fly? So they want somebody who does that. They also want somebody who is going to be there if there's any problems, whether it's like that whole air disaster we had last week with the CrowdStrike outage. They want somebody that they can call and say, help me with this. So it's all about service with luxury travelers, and it's about access and understanding that what they're looking for are unique experiences. They're looking for things that are ungoogleable. And that's why if you're going to focus on luxury travel, you need to make sure that you are comfortable working with DMCs, which are destination management companies. You need to put together the whole package. Somebody asked a question earlier about cruises, and do you charge a fee for that? Yes, because you're not just booking the cruise. You're going to sell them insurance. You're going to help them pick out shore excursions. You're going to book pre and post cruise hotels. You're going to make recommendations about a whole bunch of different things. It's not about just go, show up at the cruise port, get on the ship, get off the ship, and you're done. That's not what this is about. Remember, you're not booking a trip, you're crafting a vacation. And so that's really what luxury travelers are like. You do not have to be able to afford a $1,200 a night hotel room to work with luxury travelers. However, there is a certain amount of professionalism that you need to have to win over this type of traveler. Obviously, you need to, at a very basic level, have a professional business name, a professional email address. Nobody wants to book with somebody at Sandy's Fabulous Vacations at gmail.com. That's not a thing. You need to have a professional presence. You need to have a professional affiliation. So if you're going to work with luxury, you're probably going to need to be with a host. You need to be with a host agency for sure, because they're going to want hotel elite programs. They're going to want air programs. They're going to want hotel programs that give them extra benefits, whether that's Virtuoso, Signature, or one of the other consortia. So you probably just can't really do that on your own. But don't let the fact that you can't afford to travel like that stop you.
Hmm. And as a millennial, I agree that it is, and it's not just being in the travel industry. There's something that's like, yeah, like if you know you're getting it and you see, you just see the value. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
I think it's also because of social media. We actually see it, like all the beautiful photos, the videos. It
And
makes
because you're smart enough to know that that beautiful video and photo you see may not be exactly the way it is. Think about any
true.
picture of any beach of any Caribbean resort that you've ever seen. Gorgeous white sand, gorgeous lounge chairs, a beautiful palm tree, beautiful water, and no people. That's not what it's really
Yeah.
like. So you you work with somebody who knows what the real thing really is like. And I just saw a question pop up from Dan that I want to ask, and it is, what's the most money you've made on a single sale? I don't sell anymore and haven't for quite a while. So, but I can tell you what the most money is that one of our advisors ever made is that we had an advisor who did a group on a river cruise sailing, and her commission check was $165,000 for that one trip. So groups and luxury, that's where the money is. And so if you want to work smarter, not harder, groups and luxury, that's definitely where the money is.
Yeah. Ooh, and I shared this in the last one, but we just had a groups mini event.
Oh,
It's
good.
on our YouTube channel. Yeah, let me post this really quick
Sure.
because yeah, it's so that's a big one.
Yep.
Here, I'm gonna look for it here. But I know like we came on time and I just want to say once again, thank you. I know everyone is like, this has been amazing. It's so helpful having this and just seeing like the breakdown and understanding, the relationship side. It doesn't have to be complicating, just as you're building a relationship with this person to offer the best.
Right. And just remember that I think a lot of times, back in the day, travel agents were the only way you could book something because of the technology. And so you had to go to a travel agent even if you wanted an airline ticket because you couldn't book it yourself. But now it's not about the booking. Again, it's about crafting a vacation, and it's about creating something that the client will cherish those memories forever. And think about how powerful that is. And I just think travel advisors are just such amazing human beings. And I want you to feel like you are an amazing human being and you are doing things for people that make a difference in their life. And I want you to value and respect that and the amazing service that you deliver to clients time in and time after time after time.
Man, what a great way to just end this day, Sandy. That is very beautifully said. So I love that. And again, everyone, we'll put the link for so in your LinkedIn newsletters. Can't wait for those.
Yep.
Really exciting. So we'll put the link on there and everything. But thank you so much again. This is incredible. And we still have a whole other day tomorrow. So we'll start
Mhm.
applying it all into Travefy. So this was also a good segue that, we're talking about those quotes and proposals. And guess what? That's going to be
Mhm.
the first thing we talk about tomorrow. So
And that
really
makes such a
excited.
difference. Listen, we were talking about Virtuoso Travel Week earlier,
Yes.
and we use Travefy to keep up with all the 10,000 appointments that we
Oh,
have that week. So we all have our own Travefy, to keep up with where we're going. So it definitely is something that you need to get comfortable using.
100%. I can't imagine life without it. Not just saying that because I work, but I really, even that's if it's a 1 day trip, I'm still making a Travefy itinerary. I
Hmm.
must have it.
Hmm.
Like
I agree.
it needs to be there. But thank you so much again, Sandy. And thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. And then we will see you tomorrow. So thanks again, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody for stopping by.
Thank
Bye.
you. See ya.